Well, thanks for tuning into the Market Wrap. I'm Niraj Shah with Nickey Mirchandani, and it's been an interesting day because if you look at the headline numbers, they look very flat, but within that, a fair degree of gyrations in the index components as well as the broader markets. And we'll talk about all of those. First, let's get the index up on the screen and what's smooth and what's not, and you will see that. We spoke about this in trade setup today that BFSI corrections may not continue. Well, little we know about HDFC Bank, but that notwithstanding, I think BFSI fared reasonably okay today. But the winners, well, one, Maruti Suzuki, the big move, 7.5%. And I think some of this has to be the belief that the retail numbers will look robust or the wholesale numbers will look robust in December and January simply because of the mismatch between the wholesale and retail at Maruti's end. But I think those numbers will look okay. But 7.5% is nothing to scoff at. With some gains for Asian Paints continuing, ONGC third or the fourth in the prod, if not more. So really strong show. And while you don't see BFSI names there except for State Bank of India, which was symptomatic of what PSU banks did, I think the others too did okay, like the likes of Kotak, etc. What didn't do well? Well, SBI Life Insurance correcting too. HDFC, that to my mind was one of the newsmakers of the day because of the RBI stricture on it. And RBI rarely does this. And as HDFC Bank is rare, even rarer to find it on the wrong side. But that has happened, and which is why it got the party got disrupted for HDFC. And to an extent, Airtel correcting a little bit in the session today. So that was marginally off. And compare that to what Infratel did or some of the others. I think Airtel traders would be a bit disappointed. But yep, the going was very good for a bunch of names which continued the momentum. Nicky, what stood out in the large cap space?
I'm going to go with Tata Steel. That's the usual suspect that I'm picking up in the large cap space. If you know, it's the fifth consecutive session of rally which has taken place for Tata Steel. If you look at the facts, almost 21 analysts have revised the target price higher for the company over the last 1 month. At this point of time, it's defying analyst target prices. In fact, that's the case since August 2020. And at that, if you also look at the comparison of how the performance is stacked up as compared to the peers in the last 2 months, there is an outperformance there. Tata Steel is up by 70%. SAIL, it's a 55%. JSPL, like the integrated players are at the top, which is Tata Steel versus SAIL, and the non-integrated like JSPL and JSW Steel are relatively the underperformers if you look at the broader scheme of picture, because that's on account of the iron ore prices which have also been on uptrend. So in any integrated players obviously stand to benefit with that move. And also for the month of December, large steel players have already taken a price hike to an extent of 2,500 rupees per ton since June. In fact, today we spoke to JSPL MD Mr. VR Sharma, where he also said that the price trend was pretty decent, and he's expecting further amount of momentum building in, given the kind of raw material cost pressures that the whole industry as well as the globe is witnessing as a whole. Plus, there have been some rebooting demand in terms of infra demand coming in from the rural areas, which to an extent is also aiding the up move as a whole. On account of that, if these three parameters combine together, that is tight demand, rising raw material costs, and higher international prices, if they continue to be, then Morgan Stanley has said that they're going to be revising upward the consensus estimate. And it's only today that JP Morgan already has revised higher the consensus estimates in terms of the EBITDA margins of all these companies. So clearly, the strong, surprising outperformance that has come in from these players for the last 2 months has led to a sharp up move, and Tata Steel to this has been reflecting those gains, probably now factored into the stock price.
And I think the midcaps is the other interesting bit of the story today. Let's just pull up that picture too and see. I mean, now that we've discussed large caps, as to what the midcaps did, viewers. And the party continues for companies which are having good news. So first, actually, if you look at the losers, you will see the point that I was making yesterday. You got to be careful if stocks like Vatangi, etc., move up, because when they fall in the same fashion. So down 10% today, you don't get a chance to get out. Similarly, CSB Bank, fifth day on a trot that it's corrected. So just be careful if you're trading them. But the gainers, Delta Corp 14%, Trident, the textile company, up about 10%, Century Ply up about 9%, textiles about 6.5%. So a bunch of these stocks moving very, very quickly in the session today. But I think the trade was punctuated by what was happening to the PSU banks, to be honest, and Indian Bank out there or some of the others. really stood out. Nikki, the mid cap names, the reasons or the rationale behind the two or three that moved around.
Okay, I'm picking up ICICI Prudential Life Insurance along with the counterpart HDFC Life Insurance Company. Both of these companies have been doing well for the last 2 to 3 odd sessions. If you just look at ICICI Prudential Life Insurance, it's rallied around 5 to 6 odd % in the last three trading session itself. There needs to be seen with the yearly premium now probably coming in for some companies in terms of calendar year. There seems to be a strong momentum building in for these counters on account of which you're also seeing that up move. Also, what did well in trade is Pyramid Enterprises. The stock rallied as much as 5.5% in trade today. There were few reports which suggested that Blackstone is likely to buy Pyramid Glass for approximately $950 million. The deal announcement is likely to take place next week. On account of that, you saw a sharp uptick coming in that counter and a rally of more than 5%. In non-conventional names, Delta Corp along with Trident also did well. But for Delta Corp, it's the biggest single-day gain in nearly 4 months that we've seen for Delta Corp. It's trading at probably the highest level that we've seen in the last 10 months. It's up for third consecutive session, of course, and at this point of time, if you look at RSI, that's at 75, indicating that the stock could be in overbought territory. At this point of time, all the four analysts which have been tracking the stock have a buy recommendation. So do keep an eye out on this one. But I'm going to come quickly back to you and ask you about anything that you'd like to watch out for, or the day two of Burger King IPO. How is the demand stacking up, and what are you making out of it?
That one is doing okay, Nikki. I think so. Burger King, I reckon, would sail through well based on the subscription. But I think the key takeaways from today's session, to my mind, are one that if you just look at the kind of upsurge that Maruti or Bharti Infratel got, it shows that good news are getting bought into. And the Bharti Infratel, Sunil Bharti Mittal checking into it, or Maruti with the confidence that they've expressed. 7.5% on that one is not a mean feat. I thought today, as I was saying, the PSU banks have seen some very interesting traction. They've moved up on very high volumes as well in the session today. It'll be interesting to see the delivery percentages today. But I think that is something that all of us should be keeping a keen eye out for. Without exception, we had these PSU banks moving up: BOB, CanBank, PNB, SBI. And I mean, when I was speaking to a few dealer desks today, and all of them seem to suggest that with the quietness that we've had in pharma and specialty chemicals in the last couple of days, in the last 4 or 5 sessions, actually, they expect some activity at the broader end of the spectrum on the specialty chemicals and midcap pharma. So midcap activity might well continue, and especially in these pockets. So that's something that we should watch out for. Quick updates, Nikki. Is the world looking in okay place?
Well, it's mixed picture of sorts at this point of time. If you look at the European markets, they're all down and out in red at this point of time, despite seeing a little positive uptrend in US stock futures, which are indicating to a positive start coming in for Wall Street. Nevertheless, it looks like the global market, or so to say, the European stocks have paused for breath, waiting more news on US stimulus measures and the vaccine approval for more cities or more countries coming in. So that's one big update that we'd like to keep an eye out on. Also, not to forget the fact that this is December, and obviously, it's going to be the volumes at this point of time are expected to remain thin because most of them investors are in the holiday mood around this month. So we aren't expecting much activities coming in from FII front, but with this, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching.